Boom. Welcome back to another on-demand episode of Seminoles Sideline 365. Once again, I'm here because we have more breaking news from the world of college football related to Florida State. Sometimes it's a good thing, but for days like this, today it's a bad thing, right? So we'll break down what's going on, give our thoughts and commentary around that. But the reason we do this is that we want to be the voice of the fan and we want your thoughts and your voice. So in this video, in the comment section, let us know what you agree with, what you don't agree with, and how you see things, because we want to elevate those thoughts as well, as being one of the only kind of independent media outlets still available, where we don't ask for money. So yeah, we want your comments are our money. So put them in the comment section. But while you're here, we have two big things to discuss. The first big thing is you lose one of your top running backs in Treshaun Ward. He's announced today, January 3rd. It's Tuesday. It's that day off Monday has messed up my week. But he's announced that he's entering the transfer portal. And we discussed this on an earlier show, I think a couple of months back when we did our kind of portal preview show. So if you want to see what our thoughts were leading up to the portal, you can look at that video. But that portal preview show, we said is that this running back room is too deep for a guy not to leave. And we originally thought maybe it's a guy like if Trey Benson doesn't go to the NFL, like he's ended up not doing, that room becomes increasingly more stuffed up and more crowded. And when Trey Benson announced that he's coming back, he's staying, it was great. We were all jubilated. But and I kind of forgot about too, I don't think we realized the impact that would have on a guy like Treshaun. And then especially when you see the way he performed in the Oklahoma game, in which I don't think we win that game without Treshaun Ward, right? But he had 10 carries for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was able to give you a dynamic in the running back game plan that Trey was able to give you that night. He was able to give you a wiggle and break into those smaller holes. When the offensive line was able to get pushed, he was able to break into the crease and break a big run. And he has more breakaway speed in my mind than Treshaun Ward does, than Trey Benson does. And he gave you that dynamic that I think helped you open up that running game towards the end of the game, especially on that big run for a touchdown on the right side of the field, which is one of the game-defining plays in that comeback. So I think what he saw was, A, it's a crowded room. B, you got a guy like Keziah Holmes from Penn State who's going to be available to play, high four-star guy, very much believes in himself that he can compete for time, which is why he's here. You got a guy like Sam Singleton coming in, who's going to want to compete for some time. You got CJ Campbell. He's fought back from injury. He's scored a couple of touchdowns. He's got talent. And then you got a guy, so this is, when you look at it, and then you got Rodney Hill, who looks, from little flashes you've seen, he's predicted his redshirt status. Who's come in and he's going to be wanting to compete for time. So you have 5, 6, 7 plus players that all have the ability or are going to want touches, be fed. And I thought it was either going to be CJ or Rodney or even Lawrence to Philly, who's going to bounce out of here, but it ends up being, your 1A, 1B running back, however you want to think about it. And Treshaun Ward, who, we all know the story from walk-on to starter, and the great story he has. And what he ended the season with was like 600 yards rushing, and with probably his best game in my eyes being the Oklahoma game on a national stage in front of a lot of people. He was able to put on a little bit of a show in limited time. So I think what he's doing is he saw, I only have limited time available right now. If I want to take a shot at going to the NFL, I need a place where I can get starting carries. I need to be able to get 15 to 20, maybe 20 plus carries a game and be able to showcase my skill set. Because I think, obviously, he believes in himself. I think we see the skill that he has, and that can translate to the next level if he can showcase it. But he has to showcase it more than starting 6 games like he did this past season. And the distribution model within the Florida State program is he's not going to be able to get 15 to 20 carries a game. We just know that. It's just not available. So what he may have seen is a guy like Kalen LeBourne, who kind of doesn't work out at Florida State for a number of reasons. We don't have to rehash that. But a guy that takes a bet on himself, goes to Marshall, and look at what he did. 1,000+ yard runner, back on the NFL radar, declares. That guy went from, I think we all thought he was done for. And when he didn't work out at Florida State, the injury, everything, I wasn't sure if he was going to land on his feet. The guy fought through it all, goes to Marshall, bets on himself, elevates that program, elevates himself, 1,000-yard plus season, and now he's back on the NFL radar. And I think Treshaun can take that example and say, what if I go to Marshall? What if I go to a smaller school like that? That still gets national recognition, FBS level, can compete, and I can run for 9,000 yards. That immediately puts me back on the NFL or puts me on the NFL radar at a high level. So I think for him, this is a logical move for him, and I think that's why I think Florida State fans they're not surprised. They may say they're surprised. I think they're not surprised. They're just more like disappointed because we know the talent level he has and what he brings to this team. And I think you lost something from the room today, but it's something he had to do for himself. And I don't think anyone at this program is going to blame. You saw the statement that Coach Nadell already put out today about him and thanking him for his contribution to the teams. Once again, it's a mutual respectful departing, which is what you want to see. And it's the best thing for him and his family moving forward. And I think we're all disappointed, but we know it's the right thing for him, and we wish him the best. And my only ask is that please, Treshaun, just don't go to an ACC team. I don't want our defense trying to tackle you in the open field. That's all I ask for. So I think that's all we can ask for. So in the chat, let me know. Do you agree this is the right move for Treshaun? Where do you think he'll land? Do you think he's going to go to a more of a mid-major program or a top, Power 5? Group of 5, where do you think he's going to land? Because right now, when I look at the available running backs in the transfer portal, all the top talent that was available at the time has already moved on. They've already picked their destination. So there is some advantage for him going in so late, is that he can see what's available, what teams need it, and there'll be more people trying to go after him because all the top talent on this board right here has already committed elsewhere, right? And the only guys he may be the top running back in my mind now available outside of maybe Marshawn Lloyd, who's got similar numbers this past season to Treshaun, especially, coming from a SEC program as well. The only other guy is Trey Sanders, who's got very little burn at Alabama. And it's really, his is really based on what his high school credentials are right now. So if you look at this, most people have already committed on this list. So I think Treshaun knows he's going to be the probably number one running back available in the portal. And maybe he goes to Colorado. I know Colorado will be calling him to make an immediate impact there. And I know Deion's definitely watched him a couple of times, watching Florida State games in the past. So it'll be interesting. I think he'll get some offers from the big time programs. But I think for Treshaun, he's going to be looking for, am I the guy? Am I the guy that's going to be able to be the bell cow and get the carries I want? So like I said, Treshaun, just please don't be in the ACC. That's all I ask. But we wish Treshaun the best, and it'll be interesting how everything else shakes out. But I don't think this is you're losing talent, but you have talent to back it up. I hope a guy like Keziah comes in hungry and is ready to play and can immediately step in and fill that role out. And you guys got like Sam Singleton and Hill who are going to really back it up. So I think it works out for both parties. The next thing we got to discuss is you lose your DB coach. Who's going to oversee DBU now, right? Coach Woodson, who got a lot of heat after the Oklahoma game based on numbers and points scored, stuff like that. We talked about it in the live reaction show is that me and the old man didn't think anyone from the staff would be leaving because there was people, we need to get rid of Fuller and Woodson, get rid of these coaches, And I was like, I don't think Norvell's not going to get rid of these guys. And I think our opinion was they would have to leave on their own, just like Coach Marv did, like Coach Rushing did. They would have to leave on their own. Oh, well, and now it happened. So Coach Woodson is moving over to Arkansas for a pay raise and a kind of a level bump for him in the SEC. His contract was up for expiration. So this is actually the best of both worlds. You didn't have to do some nasty. It wasn't like he jumped programs or stuff like that. His contract expired and Florida State just didn't. It sounds like they just didn't match the offer, right? So he got to leave on his own terms. And Florida State gets to, there's no nastiness. It's like, I wish you good luck, man. Thanks for your contribution. And, we'll see you if we play Arkansas. So it works out for both teams in terms of that timeline because, he gets the offer, moves on. And now we get to look for the next coach of the DBs and what so many call DBU. And I think Coach Norvell's in a better leverage position than he's ever been to hire, right? Typically, you see him hire someone who's connected to his past tree at Memphis and previous, or someone who's internally on staff. He elevates them. But I think the reason maybe he had to do that in the past at Florida State is because, one, you're inheriting kind of a garbage program that was on fire, and who's going to want to leave their job to come to that, right? So you can only go into your close circle of friends and say, guys, come to me. You know me. Let's put this thing back on track. But you aren't going to be able to hire someone you don't know and lead them over to the program. So I think that was a smart. Well, it was a smart move for him too, because they knew the work ethic of the guys he brought in, and it's worked out so far. And you've had continuity. But two, it's not only that you've gotten the program on the right track. I mean, Florida State's going to be a top 10 program, most likely at the end of the season, based on the results so far, the bowl world. And you have some talent. You have a good amount of talent in that room that a coach can develop and utilize, whether it's like a Zaria Thomas, or you got some young guys that you brought in that have shown flashes that they're ready to play and need to be developed. And you got some veterans in there, and then you're bringing some guys from the transfer portal, like Cypress from UVA that you signed, and then you're looking for other guys. But you have a mixture of veterans that need to be developed. You have some young guys, high talent, that are ready to play, that need to be developed, and you got some transfers coming in that are ready to immediately make an impact. So I think this is a very attractive role, especially for a team that's going to be competing for an ACC championship next year. And that's something you can also sell to a coach, is that we're ready to strike. We need you to come in, do your job, recruit, and take us to the next level, because we're ready. We're ready to assemble the all-star staff. And this is the first part of that. And so who do they go after? Who's on the big board for you? In the comments of this video, tell me who would be your number one choice to take this DB coaching slot. In my eyes, there's a couple of people who are not in play for this. Antonio Cromartie. Every time I see that suggestion, I laugh. It's the dumbest. It's like the guy was a GA at Texas A&M for a year. And that's his notable college coaching highlight. Now, I'm not dissing Cromartie, because we all have to start somewhere. In every career, we all have to start somewhere. But to have to put the pressure on him to become the DB coach for Florida State, along with all the legacy stuff he brings in for being a former star of Florida State, and then having to become the DB coach, one, I don't think he's prepared for it. I still think he needs to learn under some great coaches like he's been doing. And two, I think Florida State is in a position where they can get a more tenured coach who has a history of development and recruiting. And they don't have to take a risk on taking Cromartie right now. Like I said, this is not a diss on Cromartie. I think in the future he'll be a great coach, but he just doesn't have the experience right now. And I think Florida State, for the type of roster they have right now, they need a guy that can come in and will immediately demand that respect, because this coach has pushed people to the NFL, and that's who they need to fill this role. And so I don't think Cromartie is a viable option. The other player that or the other former player coach that has been circulated around is, who is the other one? The other one is Terrell Buckley. Once again, Terrell Buckley has time in college. I don't think it necessarily worked out. I think it was known a little bit more for his recruiting than his development of players. But now he's the head coach of the Orlando Guardians. The new XFL is launching. And he's the head coach there. Good title. He's just assembled a staff. The draft is going on this week. Why would he give all that up and say, "Oh, well, no, I'm going to go be a DB's coach for Florida State"? Now, when you look at it, DB's coach at Florida State may be better than being a head coach in the XFL. I don't know how. It depends on how you guys look at it. But I don't see Terrell Buckley. I don't even know the numbers of his salary for the XFL. It's probably comparable. I don't see him making that switch, because this may be a way for him to get head coaching experience, even in the XFL, and put that on his resume. So I think it's a good move for him just to stay there, and I don't think he would consider necessarily the DB coach position at Florida State. So no Antonio Cromartie, no Terrell Buckley. The other guys that have connections to Florida State or the state in general that may be on the radar are Torian Gray of South Carolina. His name's floated around a couple of times. And Jamarcus Van Dyke in Miami, who's a defensive analyst there. Those are two guys. I haven't done a whole lot of research on those guys. Gray is the guy that I think has the most experience, like 22 years across the NFL and college, worked in the SEC and the ACC. And he has a history of developing draft picks. And that is going to be a huge component of this role. It's not only the recruiting aspect has to be good. You have to get a closer on the recruiting end, but you also need to get a developer of talent. For so long, Florida State didn't have a staff that could develop the pieces they had. We think about all the 4 and 5 stars we used to have that just couldn't get to the next level, couldn't develop into the stars or into what their stars said they should be. I think we have to get a guy that can do both those things well. And a guy like Torian Gray at South Carolina, look at the guys he's produced in draft picks. Brandon Flowers, Cam Chancellor, Kyle Fuller, Kendall Floro at Virginia Tech when he was there. And then Florida, Tease Tabor, Quincy Wilson, Duke Dawson, C.J. Henderson. So this guy has a history of taking DBs, whether they be high star guys or not, but getting them to the next level and getting a good amount out of them. And I think he's a Florida native, he is going to have some pipeline to the state. So I would, if he's willing to move, once again, if he's willing to make that lateral move, this is the way the Florida State can finally do it. They are a top 10 program that we can say, hey, you may be leaving the SEC, but you're going to have a shot to play for or coach for a top 10 program that has talent available to you. And that also brings you back to your home state, and we're ready to compete for an ACC championship now. Become part of this all-star staff. So I'd like Torian Gray potentially as a fit there. The other guy I personally like for this role, before I go into other potential people, is the guy out of Syracuse, Chip West. Once again, he has been able to make NFL talent out of, not highly recruited players. Think of the guy, I'm so bad with names, the guy in the Detroit Lions, Ifatu. Deuce Chestnut, who's now in the transfer portal, I believe, but he was third team all ACC. Garrett Williams, all ACC, honorable mention. Jahad Carter, who is, safety now in the transfer portal, who I believe Florida State needs to land to further shore up that room. Hey, you get Chip West, you have a pretty good shot probably at landing Jahad Carter. So that's another bonus in his cap. Plus, he has 25 years of experience. So once again, a very high experienced guy who also has a history of developing cornerbacks, DBs to the next level, getting them to the NFL. And he has had less of a talent pool to deal with than Florida State has in recent years. So I think he has a good background, and that would be a good lateral move for him. Once again, you immediately go into the top of the ACC food chain by making the move and potentially get a pay raise. I would have to see what his money looks like right now. And then finally, other guys that maybe make sense internally are 2 guys. Corey Fuller, I've seen floating the rounds. You brought him in last year as director of football relations, so an off-field role. He has so much respect in the state of Florida and what he's done in terms of coaching and recruiting and all the high school recruiting he's done at Gadsden and both the Gadsden high schools and Goodby. I think that would help him, obviously, in the recruiting aspect of it. The only negatives against him is that he hasn't coached since 2014 at the college level, which is with FAMU. And then obviously he has his NFL experience, stuff like that. That's the only thing I hesitate on, is that he doesn't have a ton of direct coaching experience at the college level. A lot of it with high school. So he does have the recruiting end of it, but is he able to develop talent to the next level? That part is to be seen. That's why I hesitate on that internal hire. But we know Norvell likes his internal hires, so maybe he sticks with that. Then the other name to mention is Kawan Ratliff, who also brought in, I believe, this past offseason as a director of player relations. Also another guy who has ties within the state. Once again, I hope this isn't the promotion. Once again, keep these guys on staff, but I don't think they're ready to make that step into the DB coaching role. I think you need to get a much more experienced guy to come into that. The last guy that you may look to bring back from your Norvell, who Norvell's had direct coaching experience with, is a guy like TJ Rushing. This is a guy that Jimbo Fisher was able to take away when Florida State was a bad team when Norvell took it over. He was poached by Texas A&M, and now he's the DB coach with them for the last 2 or 3 years. The only thing that you hesitate with TJ Rushing is that the positive is that he's known, I believe, for his coaching, recruiting, his ability to recruit. We've seen the recruits that Texas A&M has gotten the past 3 seasons, which is high level talent. The issue is that you've also seen the way their defenses have performed. Now, is that a results of a toxic or a toxic culture at Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher and whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I'm not in their locker room, so I don't know that. But is it he can't progress these guys just due to all the other nonsense that's going on within that program and what's how they collapsed this past season, the last season before that? Or is this a guy that you still trust that can not only recruit, but he can take guys to the next level? So if Norvell likes him, I'm going to like him because I trust Norvell's opinions on what he does with this program at this point. So that may be one that Norvell, he trusts this guy he knows. He goes back after because once again, you're in a better leverage position than Texas A&M in terms of what you're competing for next season. Even though Texas A&M may raw talent wise have better talent, maybe TJ wants to come back into a culture he knows and loves working with Norvell. So we'll see. So like I said, I want the guy from Syracuse. That would be my guess. Chip West, want him number one. Because then I think we also get transfer within that with Jahad Carter. Number two, Torian Gray, South Carolina. That would be my number two. So in the chat, comment, let me know, who would you want to pick? Do you disagree with my choices? Who would you pick? Who would be your top two choices for defensive back coaching position at Florida State? And keep in mind, this may be a role that then gets promoted to defensive coordinator if something were to happen to Fuller. Maybe he moves on in a couple of years. Maybe his contract expires and it's not extended. This is a role that you could also promote to say, hey, you come to be our DBS coach, potentially someday you're co-defensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. So I think this is a very important hire for Coach Norvell. He has to take it seriously because this person could be, if they perform well, your next defensive coordinator down the road as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Well, guys, that's going to do it for now. Like I said, we had 2 good days of good news with Fabian Lovett and the signing of Fentrell Cypress at UVA coming to Florida State. And then we get 2 bad pieces of news. The Marcus Woodson news is good news for both sides. But it's still, tough to replace a coach. And then you lose Treshaun Ward, which is, a punch in the gut. But it's the best move for him. And I think we'll have the talent to be able to replace some of that production. So, like I said, like the video, subscribe if you can, and leave your comments in the chat. We love your comments. That is how, this is why we do is your comments. So let us know what you think of the moves and who you think is coming in to replace Woodson and who you think can pick up the load from Treshaun Ward. Thanks, guys. Have a great night. Take care.